Hello and welcome to another video in my C Sharp Basics. Uh, Welcome to my C Sharp Basics series of videos. And as always, go ahead and follow me on my GitHub account and visit my website. And if you have any questions, feel free to email. Right then, so now we are in video number 16 here in our basic series, and in this one I'm going to be talking about data types. Okay, now this here, because we are only focusing on the basics, I don't want to go into like really in depth about signed values, unsigned integers. Sure, you will need them at some point in your life. Okay, but the thing is, whatever I'm teaching in this series of videos, I'm particularly emphasizing things which I have used day in and day out. Okay, and there are so many things which I don't use day in and day out, and I've been teaching and working as a developer for at least 12 years now, and I've been coding for more than 20 years. So somehow things that I already use every day, they are more useful, and other things they're not that useful, but they are needed though. So for that sake, in this slide I'm just mentioning the data types. I have no plans to show it in example. I don't think that is necessary for a beginner developer. That's what these videos are for. So let's quickly go through the list here and I'm going to explain what they are. So now when we deal with integers, you actually have integers now, but I will explain a little bit theory just to get an idea. Of course, I'm not going to just leave you hanging with nothing in your hands. So what happens is, when you talk about integers, you have unsigned integers and then you have signed integers. Now what does that really mean? See, when you have a number like, let's say 1, it's actually 1, it means it's actually a positive number 1. But when you are putting a negative number, like say when you're doing math in high school, you actually specify that something is -1 if it is really -1. So this is what is called as signed numbers, or in programming, signed integers. Okay, so when you are creating data types, and if you're doing something which is very, very specific to math, like for example, you're building some kind of a finance API, or scenarios where a negative number does really matter, right? So then, yes, you should worry about things like signed and unsigned integers. But fortunately, at least in the beginner classes and the beginner demo project I'm going to show you, the sign rarely matters. We're not doing any math heavy things. We're not doing any number heavy things. So really, I could care less right now about signed and unsigned numbers. But such things do exist in .NET. They exist in all programming languages, but they're existing here as well. Now, another thing which will create some confusion of floating point types, again, there are different kind of fractional numbers, decimal numbers like 8.6 or 0.6, 0.5 and stuff like that. Okay, again, there are so many varieties of floating point based on accuracy and stuff like that. Now, I do not say that they are not important, but for the purpose of my classes, they are beyond the scope of my discussion. I'm going to wash my hands off it. So again, if you're doing something math heavy, just like the signed numbers where minus and plus really make a big difference for your project, you can go deeper into it, but I don't care about it right now. So I'm going to just move on from the same thing with floating type. I really don't mind what type of type I use when I'm creating decimal values, and I'm not doing any math library here. Okay, so what I do is a lot of times I just use decimal ware type. That part I'm going to show in the next line, but otherwise it's up to you. But I want you to know there are different kind of floating values available, different types related to fractional numbers available in .NET, and you can explore that in your own time. The next thing is, reference types and value types. Again, a lot of people, they go deep into it. I'm sure it's some kind of a job interview question or something. Again, it really makes no difference to us for the purpose of our classes, the beginner learning. And even in .NET projects, I rarely care about reference types and value types. So again, that is something that is there. It may be important if you're manipulating values based on reference or value. But if that is so important to you, then please go ahead and investigate on your own. So again, just mentioning it, not really going deep into it. I don't want to go deep into it. It's not relevant to my classes, and I don't teach these things anyway in my classes. But if you want to, then go deep into it on your own in either Microsoft Learn or Microsoft Docs or some other tutorial. All right, then now what is relevant then? So I'm talking about things which are not important to me, but they are important to a C# developer. Now, what is important to me are the basic stuff. The things that I find myself I have a lot of projects on my GitHub. I have built a lot of projects for clients. These are the things that have helped me make a reasonable, have a decent livelihood, if I can say that. Okay, so these are the things that matter. Now, these things we are going to use in our example project. So let's get to it. So I'm going to go ahead and create a Visual Studio project here. Okay, now I already used it in my previous videos and future videos, but still, because this video is about data types, let's go ahead, for the sake of ceremony, let's take care of it, right? So let's do it, data types. Okay, as always, I want to put this on desktop. That's to delete September 19th. So let's do that. And this is something you'll notice in many of my videos. I tend to focus on things that are very practical, maybe to an extreme extent. And again, is that a good approach for software development? Is that a bad approach for software development? Look, that's for you to decide. I'm not a completionist. It's something I mentioned in many of my podcasts, also in my blogs and everything. I'm not a completionist in any way. I learn what is essential and I make do with what I have. That's really my style of doing things. Anyway, so enough of the philosophy. I'm sure I'll make one video about my philosophy and approach to learning and development, but some other time, not here. Okay, the project is open here. So what are the types that we're talking about? Int, you already know how to do it. Int some number is equal to 10. So here, once again, I really could care less if it is positive, it's assigned, unsigned, I don't care. I just want a number. I got it, int some number equals 10. And a lot of times what I do is I just do it like this. I use var, a lot of var, and I let var figure it out what it is. So I'll just use var, and then now when I say here, I see that it has become int. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. So the same thing with floating numbers. Again, I think I usually use, let me just do it like this. Let's see what var does. So there you go. Double. Yeah, that's the one I use most of the time. But there are also other things like float, and I think float is another one. I don't know if there's anything else. So again, that's what I want. So double, just following along with what var does. That seems to be the most common type. Is equal to 20.09. That's it. That's all I care about. I want to show a fraction number. I don't care if it's some high precision value. Double is good enough for me. The next one I use is bool. Bool, of course, there's no variation there. Boolean is always boolean. So boolean some bool value is equal to true. Very straightforward. Okay. Next, wait, it's supposed to be, I think I'm supposed to type 2. Yeah, that's a better word. You can also do it as boolean. That's, again, no problem. The last one, next one is string. Obviously, we use a lot of strings. Some string is equal to hello and how are you. Done. And finally, date time. I do use date time a lot. We have to use it. And after the basic series is done, I will be doing a video series on how to build web APIs and microservice projects. Now there you do need time. Okay, so the one that I use is most of the time, there are a lot of variations there also. I use is datetime.now. So whenever you're working with databases, you want to track the exact moment of time when something was created or deleted or modified, and you need to track the date and time. So that is where I use datetime.now, especially datetime.now. There are again a lot of variations for it, a lot. Okay, so if you look at your cursor there, it says, there you go. Cool. Now all we have to do is let's go ahead and check it out. So I'm just going to say console.writeLine. Let's show all the variables here. Some number. There you go. I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 console.writelines. There you go. Let's do that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Then some number 2, some number 3, some number 4. Some bool value, here we go. Some string, here you go. Current time, here you go. Okay, let's run it. There it is. The first string is 10, 10, 10, 20.09, true, hello and how are you, and 19 September 24, 10, 49, 19 a.m. So these are the most common things I use in my classes and in my demo projects and pretty much in most of my developer life as well. And this approach, some seems to work for me. It may not work for you. Of course, the kind of jobs you're applying might be different. Of course, when you apply for job interviews and things like that, yes, they do like to ask questions like, oh, the reference value, oh, what is that called, value types. People like to ask such questions, even if they are. I'm not saying they're not important, but somehow for me, I don't think they're important. So if you want to learn it, please go ahead. There's a lot of time. You can spend months just learning about data types, or you can just go online and okay, top 100 developer questions and just by heart the answers. Anyway, so that's all there is. Oh, I forgot about this one. Yeah. So obviously in the future project, again, this is something which will come up in the next series of videos, not right now. I'll get into classes, interfaces, when I teach you how to build web API. So that is the next series of videos I'm planning. But I just thought I'll mention it here. So along with these basic types, which I use a lot, I do build a lot of classes. That is what called as custom types. I build a lot of classes. Obviously, I build a lot of interfaces, and of course, you have to implement those interfaces. Now, these things, we will get into the details in the next series I'm starting after this series of videos are over, but I just thought I'll mention it here. So once again, there you go. That is the end of this one. As I said, I'm skipping a lot of in-depth things. That's really not my plan with these videos. Again, it seems like I'm spending a lot of time just justifying it. You know what? I think I've already justified. So I'll see you in the next one. All right.